So, Bill, thanks for always coming on board whenever I ask you to come on board. You're helping us in our community.
I'm glad to be here, Charlie.
That's great. Can you maybe just start off as give us your initial thoughts on the importance of angel and investing and angel investors sharing their expertise with entrepreneurs?
Well, I'll tell you, I think, as you know, I'm a reformed corporate executive. So I come at this a little differently. I'm not a founder. I came from the corporate world. I did a lot of deals within corporation, so I don't know from the founder's eyes what it looks like, but I know what success looks like at the top. I know when it gets there. I know how to value that and how to give things, to run things in the long run, and scale them. But
do you feel that that entrepreneurs don't have that, don't know what success looks like at the top?
No. Well, actually, that's a great point. I was going to comment on that later, but it's almost like you have to be to be a successful entrepreneur. You have to have a big dose of dreamer. And a dreamer is not somebody who's, tallying the results.
Okay.
That dreamer is somebody who is going to change the world. And I think the importance of angel investing, your first question, is that there's so many things in this world that would never have taken place without it. It's the beginning. It isn't, IBM and Facebook that's starting these things. They often buy them, but angel investing puts the seeds in the ground for things that we take for granted every day. We see big names on them, but they started with the seeds of angel investors and founders. But going back to the founder, or what's important, I think, for that founder to be successful, they need to know, like when it comes to tallying results, that's not what they're doing. They're starting with a mission. They're starting with a strategic intent. They're starting with a dream. And they're starting with a promise they want to make to somebody. They want to create something that's not just a good founder isn't creating the next of the same thing. They're creating a new standard of performance, a new standard of care, a new standard of whatever it may be. And it's something that will be adopted by people, not just bought. And they think that way. The dream is, how can I get famous? How can what I'm doing become famous and change how people live and work and play? And that's what they should be doing if they're going to be successful. And as they grow, they're going to have a dose of reality and financial management.
Interesting that you say, but it's interesting that you say that. I love that. They have a dream, a promise. They're establishing a new standard in the marketplace, or hoping to, right?
Right.
And then there's the other side, the corporate side, which is we want to make sure that we run it right. So how do you so that's where you come from, right? So I know where to run it right. I know what it looks like when we get there. How do you bridge the gap?
Well, because some of the best founders I know start with a dream and not the practical, management issues. That's why I look at angel investing, and it's where do you start? The question is, it starts with an idea, it starts with potential, and then you have to have a way to unlock that. So angels bring money, and money is a currency that's very important. We all know money is a currency. But the other side of it is an angel investor taking the interests of the founder to heart is going to be far more successful, because they're going to get involved and they're going to help that founder with the things that founder doesn't know. And that's the collaboration. I've said before, Charlie, how many times, but as an angel investor, I'm an investor at other levels too, but as an angel investor, the key is to get in a room full of smart people, because you'll just never know everything. And that's the same thing with a founder. They need to get angels who can provide money, but who can provide help as well. It's the two sides to it. So I don't think angel investing is just writing checks and sending them off to people with good ideas. I think it's, if you're going to be an angel, the angel part of it is to help. It's to help where you can, not help where you shouldn't, and help them find the help they need.
Yeah, I think you're very right. One of the things that I learned when I started doing angel investing, I was very engaged. Okay. And almost to the point, I think I've been famous for this one. Like if I would commit to an amount, and this is where I was the sole investor, maybe we're going to fund it for 250,000. I would commit to say 250,000, but you have to ask me for the money you need monthly. I didn't just put the 250 in. And what was interesting with that is my goal was to teach them cash flow management. Mm-hmm. And then later I abandoned that. After year 2000, I started writing a check for the 250. And man, that money disappeared so fast. Because what I learned is, you think people know what you know. Okay. A lot of these entrepreneurs, because they're so impressive with their dreams, right? And as you called it, their promises to the market, they just speak so eloquently about it. They draw you in, but they don't even know things like how to manage cash.
That's right.
So,
and
and that's a very simple thing I'm talking about. I'm not talking about in your expertise, materials management. I'm talking about just simple things like managing cash. You got to be careful here when you just write a check.
Right, exactly. And so it's like you're betting on each other in angel investing, at least the type I do. And I don't claim for that to be superior to anything else, but I do it the way I like to do it. And when I do that, it's a reciprocal relationship. I mean, they have great ideas. I back founders. That's the bottom line. It's an ingredient that's irreplaceable. I back the jockey. And as you know, I've said, I like the jockey that is willing to sleep on his horse. It's just not, they can't think about anything else. They're that jockey. They bring that, I bring money. And we each make sure the other is contributing the most that they can, and that's a good founder too. He knows how to draw on people.
I love that where you say we bet on each other. Mm-hmm. Talk more to that. How do you bet on each other? How do you first establish that you're there to bet on each other? It's one thing you with the money saying, "Yeah, I'm betting on you because I'm literally putting money down." Okay, how do you get the other side? How do you actually get confirmation that person, that entrepreneur, is betting on you?
Well, you know what? That's a great question. And I think it goes to what they're trying to do and what they agree they're going to need, which goes to whether or not I, as that investor, can help bring that. And clearly some founders are just trying to raise money, and it depends at what stage they are. But the kind that I particularly like to do is when I we can bet on each other and we're together thinking through what's down the road. A good example of that is there are founders want to raise money, but they don't think through the use of funds. Then they go raise money and people say, what are you going to use the money for? And they have some vague description. That's not going to work. There's a discipline to it that I can help with. So when people are raising money, even trying to figure out a valuation, I say, you better know what the use of funds are and know it well and have a plan to stick to it and know how long it'll last. What's your next inflection point? That's where we're helping each other. So it's where I'm helping them use their money. And then there's cash flow management and other things. But you're kind of betting on each other because you're thinking about how you can help each other down the road. When I say help each other, the founder isn't so much helping me, except that they are staying with a plan that I believe in and I'm going to want to be part of long term. I'm helping them.
Tell me this. How do you do that dating period before you actually do the investment? So that you can be assured as best you can that this betting on each other is really for real. Okay. Something you can count on, as opposed to, oh, now that I got you money, hey, Bill, I don't need your advice. Okay.
Right.
I'll get back to you. And then you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay. So what's the dating period that you go through before you write that check to be assured of that?
Yeah, I don't know how long the dating period is per se, but sometimes you get comfortable more quickly than at other times.
Well, what are you trying to accomplish during that period, whatever the period is? Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where, and these are like, I have some passive investments as well, and I have those at different levels. But when I'm in an active angel and getting involved, I am getting comfortable with the fact that this founder is out to do something special, something purposeful, something vital and integral to something else, that there's real, it's the view is worth the climb. You know what I mean? It's worth it, and that they have what it takes to get there. And then from my perspective, my confidence that I can, not only that I'm buying into what they're doing, but that I can participate and help in that, is what expedites that dating period. I really feel like in the companies where I sit on these boards, there's 9 of them. And right now it's 4 boards. I just got off one, but and 5 advisory boards, 4 board of directors. I look at those and I say, I know I can help. And that's a confidence in myself. And I think we all have it, or should, that we know we can help. So I'm going after something that I know I can have a positive impact on. And I'm betting on the fact that if I really do, the founder's going to welcome that. Because depending on how you want to invest, you should invest. It's not just having expectations, it's about having obligation. And I think
you said something I think that's important is, and I never thought of it this way, is you said, I'm active in deals, and then I'm passive in other deals. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that there's differences in how much you will invest based on what you're doing. But the ones that you're active in is basically their purpose or the mission or what they're trying to accomplish in simpler terms. It just captures you. And you think it's worth your time, that would be meaningful in this world if that happened. Whereas maybe passive, it might be meaningful to somebody else, but it doesn't grab your heart, right? You don't feel like it's worth your time, if you will, So right. Is that true? Is that how we can, you separate between active involvement in investments and passive involvement in investments?
I think so. I think that's a good distinction. I really do. And I don't think we can help it. I think that's true of all of us. You can't help it. You love what you love, and you're attracted to what you're attracted to. And so I do like businesses. I'm a curious person. I love technology-based businesses. And to your point, materials, that's a space I really know well. Healthcare and medical devices, I know that well. I'm intrigued by it. And I also see a way to get from here to there. And I say, I know I can help with that. And I'd love to help with that. I mean, the best investments are the ones where flat out you say, I do it for free.
Wow.
I do it for free, right? I mean, I'm, at ATDC.
It's that meaningful.
Sure.
And that's what it comes down to. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm a mentor at some companies at ATDC and elsewhere, and there's never been a financial interest.
Why don't you give us a story? Give us a little bit of an example of one that worked really well for you. There was all of these criteria that you're discussing here. I know you have examples. Give me one of those examples where it sort of applied.
Okay, I'd say one example is I'll go with one that's pretty current right now, or actually I'll go with one that is a signature company at ATDC, and that's Carbice, which started as an idea and a couple of people, but they use carbon nanotube technology to make what looks like a piece of black tape. But the purpose of the tape, this is the fascinating piece, is it takes heat out of electronics, essentially. That's the purpose, heat, thermal management. And there are all sorts of contraptions that people build and in electronics and in satellites and in cars and aerospace to take heat out of things. And you have to lower the temperature and everything from, the only reason.
Who wants your fan running on a laptop, right? It's that kind of thing, right? But how did you meet, besides getting deeper into technology, how did you meet these people? Like, how did you kind of?
Okay, well, that group I met through the Georgia Research Alliance. And because I'm with the Georgia Research Alliance, and it was a company that was using technology coming off of campus at Georgia Tech. So that's how I got to know them. I was fascinated with it. The founder, Baracola, is a fascinating guy, and his team are just brainiacs. I sit around a table and don't even feel like I deserve to be there. They're that smart. And what they're trying to do, and it's a long haul, and to get from where they are to where they need to be in the market. And they've done it.
How do you overcome this other piece, though, that I kind of run into sometime, is these are, like you said, they're brainiacs, and they really know this technology, if you will, right? Yet you understand it, you don't know it to the depth they do, but you appreciate the commercial value for it. So you kind of come out of it, well, how do we build a business out of this? How do you kind of bring them along without falling into the hole of just talking about technology and how wonderful it is?
Well, I think it's all about getting to an understanding, and there's a trust, there's a partnership. Mm-hmm. And that's a great example where my background in materials, I ran Porex Corporation, and that was polymers, and this is carbon nanotubes. The sales cycle, the adoption process, these are not products sold, they're products that are adopted by customers who optimize the use of this material in another product like a satellite. I understood that. So working with Bara and also his team, as this has grown over the last few years, I understood the path to market. It's kind of funny. I understood how long and painful that path to market was. Bara, the dreamer, he's a really smart guy, but he sees big things. He's anxious. He wants to get to market, combining that dream he has, that mission and purpose, with the practical aspects of knowing how long and what's in that path to market is helpful. And that's where I came in.
He had no idea what the path to market was, right? He was just going to have great technology, and it was just if we build it, they will come, right? But there is a methodology in the market. There's steps that companies go through in order to adopt new technology like this. So you enlightened him to that.
Well, I like to think I did, and I think he absorbs information from a lot of people. But the good news is a lot of progress was made, a lot of penetration in key customers, and it's still several year sales cycle. He's done a couple of raises. The last one was with a $50 million post valuation. So there's money behind this, and he's done a great job of getting out in front of investors and also building the board. This is an example of me getting on board early with him at the outset. I'm on the board. I'm still on the board. I brought what I just described, but two other people have joined the board who are from aerospace and defense industries who know how to navigate those markets specifically. So he's also building a team of people who know what he does not know. And I mean, that's what.
How do you do this then? So when you first joined, Carbice, it's just the founders and you. I mean, that's how it started. Then other angels probably sort of joined in. Is that true?
In this case, it wasn't really. Yes, there were a few. Yeah, you would call them angels.
But they were more passive than active?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So you were the only active angel, if you will, giving him advice. Then you wind up with these getting to a board level as more money comes into the deal. You need more expertise in markets and things that you don't have. Mm-hmm. How do you, as the trusted advisor, then working with the entrepreneur, get everybody sort of in line contributing in a meaningful way, in a coordinated way, if you will? I mean, I have a tendency I've seen in the past, you put 5 business people together with the entrepreneur, and he's overwhelmed. Everybody wants to talk about how smart they are by giving all kinds of great advice, but it's an uncoordinated effort. How do you bring everybody together so that you're really there all to help the entrepreneur?
Well, at that point, like with Carbice, Bara is clearly the leader, and he's established that and established it more so as things go along. And that's because everybody backed the right horse. You know what I mean? So, but he's a learning person. So he learns and absorbs, and you see it in his development as well. He was an ex-professor from Georgia Tech in engineering, and now he's in the business world. So at that point, you stay with it because it's growing, you're succeeding, you're moving forward, and the leader is that CEO, and that's really what you want. I don't have to keep it together. I think at this point, all those right things are in order. There are other companies where—
You must be a pretty strong leader, though.
I am?
He must be a pretty strong leader. He must, yeah. I mean, because it takes that to stand in front of guys like you, all right, with all of that experience, and here I am, a former professor. I have to be very careful as to when I say enough, this is what I'm going to take and run with, or too much when I get overwhelmed and there's 5 people running the company, none of which are executives.
Right. No, he is. He really is. And in fact, you want somebody who's a strong enough leader that they don't believe everything they hear when they hear it. They challenge it. Barra challenges it, and so he's on his way. There are other companies where it's a good point where you meet up with the founder and you're getting off the ground and they believe too much. That raises a great point. They believe too much. And I think everybody who's been a mentor or an advisor will know that when we talk to an early stage entrepreneur and they say, oh, wow, you were the CEO at Porex, or you were this, or you were that before, everything that comes out of your mouth must be the gospel truth. Well, no, that's not the case. And I think that's another important thing. I could borrow a lot of credit for separating the wheat from the chaff on this, but me as an angel, I also have to know where my lanes are. I know I'm business development, marketing, sales, distribution chains and regulatory, things like that. I'm not product development. I'm not IT. I'm not finance, although I'm conversant. So I know, and we have to be careful not to say, this is what you should do in an area that we don't know. That's where we say, for our own benefit and the founder, we got to bring somebody else in. There's somebody else you need to talk to. And that's
how do you guard against that? Because you know an awful lot. Okay. You have a lot of experience, and it's not just limited to materials. Okay. In this case, I mean, you have a lot of operational experience. You have a lot of fundraising experience. You have valuation experience. You've got so many different areas, yet you're not the best in all those areas. So how do you, right? I mean, so how do you guard against being this, just giving advice, and with 5 different looks, and 5 different areas of expertise? How do you stop and go, wait, not me. This should be somebody else.
That's a good question. And everybody likes to hear themselves talk right when they're expressing their opinions. But I'm not the smartest. That goes back even in my corporate world. I made sure I wasn't the smartest person at the table. So the heads of all the other areas of the business were all better at what they did than I was. Sure made my job easy. In the same way, when you talk to an angel investor, I get engaged in something that I know I can contribute to. And that may be introducing a breakthrough technology in medical devices because I'm so inspired by that, or development of materials because I'm inspired by that. But I introduce, or I bring in other people, or I'll openly say, don't take my word for it. And the barometer of that is if I know I need advice on a subject, which I do on just about everything, that's the thing where we say, let's ask somebody else. Let me introduce you to somebody else. Let's not make that decision till we know more. That's so important because a lot of these, you talk to these early founders, they can tell you stories of bad advice they got along the way. And that bad advice didn't need to take place. I think it's the obligation of, I can't know their dream. I can't fully appreciate the expectations they have for what they're doing that's going to change the world. But at the same time, I have to instead know exactly what I can bring to the party and know what I can't. And I think it's a self-government.
You're going to talk to. So I agree with you. When you brought up that example about entrepreneurs have gotten a lot of bad advice along the way, even before they got to you, right? And maybe even after they got to you. Maybe not that the bad advice came from you, okay? But what would you say to an entrepreneur on how he should distill, or vet whether the advice is good advice or bad advice coming from somebody? Because no one is short of advice in the investor community.
A founder should always, without exception, get 2 opinions on anything. 3, ideally. Never take one. I never do. I never did. And I had great relationships with people I worked closely with. Nobody was offended. So I always tell them, you better ask somebody else. You owe it to yourself to ask somebody else. This is what I think. Sometimes there'll be 3 of us on a call. Sometimes they do it elsewhere, but they have to do it. Anybody who takes a person's advice on something really important to their business without testing it with other people, that's their mistake. My obligation.
What do you do with in situations where given all the experience you have, now you're dealing with at your age, you got 30 years on this entrepreneur. Okay. You've seen a lot more than they have. And you just know they're about to make a really bad decision. And there they are. They say, look, Bill, you told me this is my company. I'm running this company. How do you deal with that?
Well,
I'm assuming you have a trusted relationship. Okay. That's what I'm saying. So go ahead.
Yeah. I think that in cases like that, where you do come to a disagreement, and it does happen,
mm-hmm.
I think the most important thing is, again, talk it over more than once. Nothing should happen once. One opinion, one conversation, and go back and look at numbers. What I've learned over the years, I speak in terms that the founder can appreciate. And it's not to say, look, I'm experienced and you're not. It's not that kind of thing. It's like, okay, let's look at some numbers. Let's look at data of some sort, customer feedback, whatever it may be, that says you're right. Let's see it. We disagree. I respect your opinion. Let's look at a third.
It's just plain ego. Ego. Yeah. It's just my time. I just need to make this decision. Are you going to honor that? And
yeah. Well, I'm fortunate that I've never come to an impasse like that, where we're just
says a lot. I think that says a lot about you, as well as a lot about the people that you invest in. That's pretty cool.
Well, I think things can change in a business. I've been fortunate. And yes, when I work with founders, I believe they trust me and they believe I've come with a commitment. I'm obliged. I'm not just expecting something in return. And so if there's trust there, it always works out. If there's a lack of trust, you're going to run into those troubles. And occasionally one of the big disagreements is when a business pivots, because sometimes they pivot too early. Something's not happening. What I find is that too often, the benefit of experience is you've seen things come through and be successful, even navigating the bumps along the way. And sometimes founders see bumps and think they need to change gears. And that's where you have to come back to the center and say, what are we doing? What was the mission? What was the strategic intent? How do you define success? And you do those calculations. And when you get into that discussion, you can help calm them down. And I think I have been in situations, I haven't been in an impasse, but I have been in situations with founders where they are rattled or scared or fearful. And even for me, because I don't have any magic insight, I have to do it. I have to say, okay, let's go back to center. Let's see what's working, what's not, where we're trying to get to, what's missing. One of the biggest things, one of the things I do with founders, and I've done this many times, and it's grounding, is I say, okay, write down on a piece of paper what this business is delivering when everything's working. And everybody can write that. My business is vital to my customers because it's the new standard of performance, and it gives a great return on investment because of this, this, and this. And then
repeat that question again that you asked them.
Well, I asked them to describe what their business is when it's delivering to its potential for its customers, what they intended to do.
That's a great way to kind of zero base the conversation, right? Let's get back to why we're here. That's so good.
And you write the statements. My business is, it's vital to somebody, it's integral, it delivers, it's the new standard, and it's the fastest growing product of its kind in a market. And then they write that, and then you both look at it, you say, well, it's not true, but that's the gap. You say, okay, what's not true that will need to be in order for that to be true, the statement. And that's where it helps get focused back on, okay, here's why. Our distribution channel is messed up. We made some wrong assumptions. The product was never the problem. The price was not the problem. It's the path to market that's the problem. And it just highlights where those fundamental gaps are. So it's really a pretty easy exercise. And you just say, write what you are if you're doing everything right.
And you're learn that at corporate?
Yeah, sure. It's exactly how we did it. You know why?
You did it. Okay, good.
Well, I did it because numbers are numbers. It's the universal language. And when I got knee deep into areas where I was not going to be able to argue, I wasn't going to be able to understand or argue the point to get out of where we were. You know, you can't just stand still and people sit around and say, this just isn't right.
Wait,
and they want to make a big change. Well, they want to make a change to distract from failure. Well, no, you just say, okay, what's the difference between where we want to be and where we are? And it goes right back to the things that have to be done. And there's always numbers on that. So it's a very corporate thing. It was the way I did it. So, and I think it's directly applicable. That's where the corporate executive in me, I think, can help a founder at those times where the founder hasn't had the experience to see that, you know, what it looks like when you get through the marsh.
How does an angel go about realizing what he or she is really good at?
You know, that's a great
It's almost like I feel like saying, so these people these entrepreneurs that you worked with and put in a lot of time with, that you have amazing relationships with. I don't want that ever to be missed in this conversation. You have such wonderful relationships with the people. You truly do trust each other and know you're in it for the right reasons, which means you're in it for each other. All right. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes you get past a lot of the bumps in the road here to get to success. But I wonder if I went to your entrepreneurs and said, like, what's this? If I was an entrepreneur and said, I'm looking for an angel, and they go, oh, this Bill guy, he's really great. You know, well, what's he good at? What would your entrepreneurs say you're good at?
I think what they would say, and please don't put this to the test anywhere, but
I'm going to put it to the test when we hang up. Okay, go ahead.
I think what they would say, they would not say Bill has the answers, Bill has questions. And those because I'm not going to have the answers. I have my opinions, but I don't have the answer. And so occasionally I will. And I'm not hesitant to express my opinion, and I qualify it, but I have questions. And it's like, what would it look like if something else happened? What is it? If we're not where we intended to be, what's the difference between where we are and that, rather than, you know, switching gears? And I think that's what they would say, that hopefully that I ask questions that remind them about what the strengths are. Don't obsess on the weaknesses. What are the strengths? Do we play to those, knowing we have weaknesses? And are we on track? And are we asking ourselves, are we putting our resources on the right things to get to the point we're heading for, our mission, our purpose? And I think those questions, really doing it that way too, there's not that much confrontation. I think people just settle in on, yep. Did you have trouble
transitioning from being an operator CEO with all the authority that comes with operator CEO and prestige to becoming an investor advisor?
I suppose there was. When I retired, I told my wife, I feel like, and I left, I said, I feel like I just put down a 100-pound bag of rocks. That's how I felt. And with that, and, you know, you're running Porex Corporation, it's 24/7. It's on your mind. You're obligated. You have to deliver results. You're accountable, all that stuff. But in what I liked best at Porex, or any company I was with, is working with people where the ideal situation for me was where they came to their own conclusion it was the right one. Because I'm a big believer, if people go with their own idea, there's a much higher chance they're going to put more energy into it and deliver, versus being told. So even in a corporate life, I considered it a failure when I had to say, okay, thanks, we've been around this enough times. Here's what's happening. It does have to happen. There are times I have to do it, but they aren't the most fun times. The fun times were when people
So it's actually a loss. I mean, it's a fail, I should say, not a loss, but a fail if you ever have to step in and say, no, we need to do this.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'm the 51% holder in this thing. We're going to do it this way.
Right.
Because that's the beginning of the end, right? Of that guy's leadership.
Well, I suppose. I mean, sometimes in some businesses, it will come down to that. And if you build an organization where people are looking to the mountains for the decision all the time, then you don't have strong people. But if you are, if it's, I won't say it's a failure, but it is a failure to maximize full potential. If people in the process haven't grabbed it with their own ideas, because if they run with their own ideas, they're much more likely to succeed. So when you transition to being an advisor, mentor with companies, it's really kind of the same thing where things need to be positioned. In fact, it's a negative if it ends up being my idea. It's a positive if I'm helping them and they come away saying, hey, I got it. Yeah. And most of the time, that's exactly what's happening. Those other times where I help by asking questions, I'm delighted with the outcome.
Last question. That is a great answer. And that's something that any of us as operators, we all know that's how it works, even with our kids, right? It works with our kids. But I'd say the last question I have for you, do you think that your reputation as an angel investor, now that you've been doing this for a few years, okay, has actually increased the quality of your deal flow? This active engagement, the way that you build relationships with these entrepreneurs. Do you think it has increased the quality of your deal flow?
Yes, I do. I am in a couple of deals that I would not come about otherwise. They were introduced to me because somebody thought I could help. Right. And sometimes it's a stretch that I can help in my area of expertise. But I like to think that. In fact, I like to think that more than anything else I'm doing. That's my hope, that people would see that, because I think when I've had things introduced to me, it's not because I have, Charlie, we may have talked about this, three currencies, right? Money, time, and integrity. There's only three things. But the integrity one, you can always give and get money and give and get time. They're all trade-offs for each other. But I've dealt with companies in a way that helps them, but also, and particularly in this one deal I'm in that came to me, it's because I don't look for I'm completely aligned with the founder at an exit. I'm patient. I look for an exit, not that benefits me, but benefits them and their dream, as long as it's realistic, but it's in alignment. And I think that the maximum return for me, and I'm in for the return, don't get me wrong, I'm there for it. And that's the purpose, but I stay with them. And so I think that if I'm trusted and I have integrity, I'm not brought into it because I have money. They can get money other places. I think it's the difference maker. And I think
once you kind of cross that line, that you're not just money, you're a lot more, then you become a successful angel investor.
Well, I don't know if you
don't know if I can say successful. Okay.
I'll wait to see the results. But okay. I think that you can feel good about the way you're doing it, and and that's what I want. That's what I want. I want to invest with people who are purposeful, and I want to invest in areas that products that are adopted to improve life and living. And that sounds very noble. Don't get me wrong. I want to get a return, but I like to do it with people who are out to do good. What's the expression? You can do good and do well as an angel investor. And I think that's exactly what it's all about.
I think if we want to get into be the first guy on the list of angel investors for those hot deals, if you will, I think having the reputation of being in it for the entrepreneur and actually putting a lot of effort into helping them succeed, will get you first in line, because the assumption is if you're an angel, you have money anyway. So why wouldn't I go to you first going to somebody who's just a purely passive investor, looking for a return?